Hey everyone, and welcome to 1.21 Gigawatts. I am Peter, and I am joined by Matt.
Hey, what's up?
And Tim's here too.
That's right.
We talk
That's,
about...
that's a fact?
That is a fact, yes.
You are correct.
We talk about movies on this show, and this episode we are going to be reviewing and discussing Captain Marvel, the latest in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We're 22 movies in, I think?
21.
Is this 21?
No.
I
22.
was
Ant-Man and Wasp.
Yeah.
I was starting to get like a. I'm so glad that this movie came out because I was starting to get the shakes. I was like, I haven't seen a Marvel movie in forever. It's been like what, like 6 months? I don't know. Like,
Yeah, it was weird because they put the third one last year in like July, so there was a big gap before the next one. Whereas when they had one in November, it was like it was like evenly every like
Yeah.
3-4 months you get a Marvel movie. Yeah.
I remember complaining about, like, who's going to go see 3 Marvel movies in 1 year? Like, that's overkill. And now people are jonesing for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hey, so we're talking about Captain Marvel. We'll start spoiler free as we always do. We'll give you a warning in the middle before we go into spoilers. But yeah, so this is the new Marvel movie. It took them 22 movies to make a movie with a female lead. That is how long it took. So, you know.
It still amazes me that we get this new character that most people aren't familiar with before Black Widow got her own solo.
Yeah, that's true.
So she's been around since the second movie.
Yeah, but it's coming. They've got a writer. They're looking for directors and stuff. It's coming. It's happening. Phase 4, baby. Phase 4. It's happening.
Phase 4.
Also, off topic, but I guess I didn't get the memo that we're all supposed to wear our Avengers shirts. Today.
Sorry, Tony.
I call it Marvel. Also,
I represent, but
Sounds like his Hellboy shirt on.
I went looking for a Captain Marvel shirt yesterday, and I couldn't find any that that are black because I like black T-shirts. So I just had to rock my Avengers Ramones mashup shirt.
Yeah. As we pointed out in Comics from the Multiverse yesterday, Matt's hat's actually kind of looks like a Captain Marvel logo.
Yeah.
It's not really, but it looks like it.
First.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I have people stop me at the mall yesterday, and that's where I got my Captain Marvel hat. I turn around and go, no, it's Vegas Golden Knights, but thanks.
And they were like, sports, and then they ran away.
Exactly.
So. Yeah, this one's interesting because obviously a lot of this MCU, like some of it I've went in not knowing anything about the character, some I've went in knowing some. I had plenty of time to read some Captain Marvel before this, but for whatever reason I just never did. Like I mean I've been reading the new series by Kelly Thompson. That was like 2 issues ago though.
Okay.
Like it's only just started.
I started last week. I picked up the first trade from Kelly Sue DeConnick. And I was like, oh my God, this is the Green Lantern book I've been wanting forever.
Yeah.
And it's like 7 years old.
Yep.
So, but it really doubled down on her as a pilot and like doing cool pilot stuff. And then, so I got, I think, through the half of the second trade before the movie came out. And then watching the movie and seeing how much from that Kelly Sue run made it into this origin story, just, changed ever so slightly. I was really excited because that's like
including Kelly Sue herself.
Yeah. Blake,
yeah.
Blake and you'll miss her, but if you know what she looks like, she stands out. Like
I'm. You guys know me. I'm a big fan of Bendis, and so I had actually been reading the character for a while. Also, I'm much more Marvel fanatic than you filthy DC lovers, but we'll save that for another time. But because I think. Carol Danvers had always been kind of like a supporting character in a lot of stuff like Bendis did, like he was an Alias and in a lot of his Avengers stuff. And then I think they relaunched Ms. Marvel with her around the time after Civil War, which actually wasn't that bad of a series. I read most of that, and then but really the Kelly Sue DeConnick stuff is when her and Emma Rios, like once they took over, that's when it really like kind of exploded. And that's pretty much become like the definitive take on the character, and it's easy to see why. It's really good stuff, and really took a lot for the movie.
It says something that it went straight to. It's not like we went through Miss Marvel first, and then we got to Captain Marvel. We went straight to Captain Marvel, and to everyone else now, you say Miss Marvel, you're thinking of Kamala Khan, like you're thinking of a different character. So
up until Brie Larson got to the role, the most I'd known about Captain Marvel was she was Miss Marvel, but that's where Rogue got her strength and flying powers from, and X-Men was she
Yeah.
had overabsorbed, and that was it. So she was always just kind of a footnote to me. And then
Yeah.
I had heard the rumblings about how good the book was, but like as Tim said, I'm a filthy DC fan, and it took a lot, especially not many years ago, to get me to read because I had New 52 to read. Damn it! Like,
Oh God, mistakes
Yeah.
were made, regrets have
Exactly.
been had.
and so like I'm glad that we kind of skipped over that Miss Marvel thing because while I'm sure she was like super cool 70s, like because I guess that's why she was named Miss Marvel because they were playing off of that women's lib stuff. Um,
Yeah.
Her in the bikini costume with the sash and stuff, I don't
Yeah.
think is a good look.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
it's not a good costume. So to see this, the full like flight suit kind of deal, it's I think it's a really cool take on the character. And just watching it, I felt like DC, pay attention because this is how you make a Superman movie and a Green Lantern movie.
Yeah.
Like, it checked both of those boxes for me.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
if I'm doing my usual summary before I ask the question that I always ask, she's on the Kree homeworld, and she's a part of a Kree squad who go out and fight, Skrulls and various other threats. She has no memory of her time before she landed there, which was about 6 years ago, and she thinks she's from there, but of course we know she's really from Earth. There's flashbacks, of course, and other things that explain that as the movie goes on. But she ends up on Earth, and she teams up with Nick Fury, a younger Nick Fury, set in the 90s, and they try to deal with Skrulls. Skrulls, of course, are shape-shifting aliens, and they think they're going to cause trouble, and they're looking for. There's a MacGuffin they're looking for on Earth, basically.
Yep.
But that's
So-
the general setup.
The like the first, the beginning of the movie, that first scene where you see like two people looking the same because like there's a scroll shapeshifter or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So the very first time that happened, the woman that was sitting next to me, she
Your
went
wife, yes.
like, no, well, on the other side of me, I was between two people.
I love the idea that Tim calls Melissa the girl that sits next to me at movies.
Yeah. I mean, I guess technically it's accurate, but no, it was another woman on the other side of me. But as soon as she saw that, like, first scroll shapeshifter, she goes, "What?" Like, I was like, "What did you think you were watching?" Like,
Yeah, well,
it's
Scrolls, like, they are kind of this new thing for most people. Like,
sure, but I just feel
for
like
myself, yeah.
she just seemed like so shocked, like it's a Marvel movie. There's gonna be crazy stuff in it.
Yeah, I mean, like,
This
22
is just the tip of the iceberg.
We're 22 movies deep into Marvel, and she's like, shapeshifters. No, this is where I draw the line.
Yeah.
This is where I draw the line.
It was so loud though. I thought it was funny. Yes, Pete, continue with whatever you're blabbing about.
I was just giving you the setup of the movie, which I finished doing, so I will now ask the question. I will go around, and we'll each answer, again, spoiler-free, just sort of general impressions, but Tim, since you're technically the guest, even though you're here often enough, did you enjoy Captain Marvel?
I did. I liked it a lot. I thought, I think one of the things I was really happy about is, at this point I'm a little sick of origin movies, but I thought they did this in a real interesting way where it's not really told, like linearly, if that's a word, but
Linearly. Yeah.
it's hard to say, but you know what I mean. I thought that was like really interesting, and there's like a lot of really good action. Brie Larson is great. She just really did a awesome job as the character, and I thought like it was a kind of like a subdued performance, but I thought like it really works with the character, with like where she's coming from, and this thinking she's one thing and she's not, and but I like that they're not just trying to make her like female Spider-Man or something where she's just constantly quipping and joking and stuff, like
and there's a time and a place and characters for that, like Tony Stark. Like, I wouldn't want Captain America quipping like Tony Stark.
Exactly.
And same with Captain Marvel is she's an Air Force pilot that becomes an alien soldier. She's not the type that's gonna crack jokes. Although there is levity, like she has some moments.
I like that. There was like still funny parts to it, and like she works so well with Sam Jackson. Like them together is just such a great fun team to watch. And
it's weird that she's kind of the straight man in that
Yeah.
dynamic, and he's the over the top reacting to everything.
Yeah.
Because especially because it's Sam Jackson, and that's usually his role.
Yeah, everything's new to him though. The idea of aliens, the idea of all these things, everything's new. Matt, did you enjoy Captain Marvel?
I did very much. I really love Brie Larson. People that know me would know this, based off of how much I love Kong Skull Island.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
You know?
Oh god, it only took 10 minutes to get a Kong Skull Island mention.
You know,
Jesus.
my one negative takeaway from her as Captain Marvel is now I'll never get her as Lois Lane, right? Because now she's Captain Marvel
damn.
for the next foreseeable. But I always thought she'd rock it as Lois. But yeah,
She
no,
would be great. Yeah.
she's fantastic. I was a little worried from the trailers because she did seem kind of like stilted, but with context in the movie and just the paced out those scenes are, she's fine.
I think
Like
the trailers did a disservice to her because she has a lot more charm in the movie than she did in the trailers. The trailers only show you the colder moments. Because her comedy in this is very much a kind of
deadpan.
Yeah, it's a deadpan, right? But it's actually really funny when she does it. So you know, it just you know the trailer didn't really show much of that. So I went in worrying that she might be kind of humorless, and she wasn't. She actually has a lot.
No, but she's not like light either.
Like there's a scene. I mean,
fine line.
No specifics for spoiler's sake, but there's a scene where she's looking at a map and she just kind of like folds down the corner and looks over it at one point, and that's just funny on its own. It's just this little action of her going and picking over the map. It's funny.
She is a really gifted actress. Like I always forget that things she's been in because she melds so well into the role. Like she's Envy Adams from Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah.
But that's true. Yeah, she's the singer, right? She's also in The Room with Tommy Wiseau.
No, I think you watched a different movie, Pete.
Yeah.
No, she was in a room. She was trapped in a box, and every night, like Tommy Wiseau would come out, be like, "Hey, Brie Larson."
I would, that's that would have been interesting to have Tommy Wiseau in that movie.
But yeah, she's so. I feel kind of silly being worried because she is that great of an actress, and then the rest of the supporting cast, Ben Mendelsohn,
super badass too, like when she needs to be.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine. But like Ben Mendelsohn, he's playing the heavy, and I this is a different side of him than I've seen because every time I've seen him, he's the heavy guy that's always serious. Whether he's a little bit like smarmy in Dark Knight Rises, because Pete, he's like the lawyer guy that works with Bane, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and then like in Rogue One, he's the straight up villain. So to see him here,
what's funny is that like I recognize his voice immediately, but even when we see him like without makeup, I'm like, he looks different. Is that really? Is this just someone that sounds like Ben Mendelsohn? Because he looks a little bit different than normal.
Yeah, he carries himself differently from role to role, and this time even as he's the villain, I'm looking at him like there's something likable about him. Like he has this smooth kind of to him, like this just cadence, and it made me want to go watch the directors of this. Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck did a movie called Mississippi Grind with Ben Mendelsohn and Ryan Reynolds. And
was that a gambling movie?
Yeah, it's about them going up. Yeah, them going up on like a gambling riverboat and stuff. And I was like, well, if he's as likable as he is here as the bad guy, then I wonder how he is playing the gambling guy in Mississippi Grind. Under the same director.
Who do you play? The main scroll?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, main scroll.
He's
Talos. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Cool. Is it Talos or Talos?
I don't know. I heard it both ways in the movie. So some of them called him. I think that was Jude Law's accent though, calling him Talos.
Yeah.
Versus
I think it's Talos, but I'm going off of Star Trek here because there's a planet called Talos 4. So I'm just going with that.
But
will you shake your head that time? Will you shake your head that? How dare you?
It was good seeing Clark Gregg as young Coulson. Like I've missed him in the movies because I haven't watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in forever, and it's over now, right, Pete?
No. They get two more seasons at least. They just get renewed for season 7. Season 6 is not aired yet.
So all the big galactic stuff in this movie made me kind of want to go back and revisit. Because that's the last stuff I remember seeing on S.H.I.E.L.D. It dealt with a lot of the Kree and the humans and stuff.
If I can just vouch for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for a second, Season 1's pretty weak. After that, it does nothing but get better. Season 4 of S.H.I.E.L.D. is like my favourite thing in the MCU.
Which was the first half of which season was basically Coulson being Indiana Jones and looking for lost cities and stuff. Because I was really about that.
I think that was season 2. That was when they're looking for the lost city.
Is it 2? Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the first half of that I really enjoyed. And then when the human stuff came in, and I kind of lost interest. But this made me want to go back and check it out.
I did enjoy seeing him, but I did think he looked a little weird to me. Like Sam Jackson, I thought they did an incredible job, like de-aging him or whatever. I actually think it's kind of scary, but like,
well, I don't know, because like when I watch Jurassic Park, and he's Mr. Arnold, which is mid '90s as well. Yeah, he kind of looks the same as he does as Nick Fury. Like I don't think he's aged particularly like. Badly,
no, I think if they would have not done the CGI de-aging stuff, I would have been totally fine with it, especially because, like Nick Fury is a dude that like I think he takes like infinity serum or something. So like in the comic books, he doesn't really age. Like he's been young since World War II. Like
because that was his first. His first. What is going on there? I have my own Kree Skrull war going on here. So,
those flerkens abound. Anyway,
I gotta go yell. I'll be right back.
Yes, that's gonna go yell. And I noticed that he didn't mute his mic before he did that, so we get to listen to the beautiful sound of Matt yelling at his dogs.
It's gonna hear things crashing.
Yeah, just the crashing laser beam streams.
All right.
At least a baby yelling for help. Anyway, so to wrap this all back round, that went on for a while there. So for myself, I liked the movie. I thought it was good. Not great though. I do have some critiques. One of which is actually a technical critique, which I'm going to go on a bit of a rant in a minute. I'm going to warn you right now.
No.
There's a technical rant coming up in a second.
It's going to have something to do with the 90s.
No, it's not to do with the 90s. Not to do with the 90s.
Oh, okay. I was going to say it's going to be some inaccurate thing where they
have
the videotape.
It's not that. It's not that. I liked the movie. I thought Brie Larson was good. I think the first act is probably the weakest. It's a kind of dull first act, but once they get to Earth, things kind of pick up. The buddy cop kind of stuff with Sam Jackson was really good. I like. Obviously we'll get to it in spoilers later, but there's a swerve in the story with what's going on that I kind of liked. It's sort of towards the end of the second act, and I like some other stuff. But yeah, let me get my complaint out of the way. Let's get my technical complaint out of the way. So I was actually thinking before I watched this. This was just a random thought I was having because I do this. Is I was thinking about how movies today, big budget movies that is, don't typically look as good as they used to, right? And not just because of CG. I mean, I think the obvious thing you think of there is, it's just because CG is used now. But no. I'm thinking a lot of the MCU is really guilty of this, where they look like TV shows that just happen to have really good special effects, right? They don't have the distinct visual style, and that's not necessarily a terrible thing. But I was thinking about it before I went into this, and I was kind of thinking, I wonder if this is going to go above and beyond that and actually feel like a movie. And I don't think it does. I think the visual style is really basic looking, but there is a technical fault to add on to that that was really bugging me during this movie, especially in the first act. But it's kind of, it props back in throughout the whole thing, is that some scenes are just flat out underexposed, and it was really bugging me. And there's an example here for you. So Captain Marvel, Carol, her best friend from Earth, right? Maria. There's a reunion between them. That was someone she knew before she left and went to the Kree home world. She has a reunion with her in the middle of the second act, and it's this scene where she walks up into she's got this outside area, and she's got a plane she's working on, and she's kind of doing mechanic stuff, and Brie Larson walks into the scene, and it cuts to this wide shot where you see, and you can see Monica, or it's not Monica, Monica's the daughter. Maria's head looks up.
And do you know who that is?
The daughter?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know she grows up to be
Well, not necessarily grows up. She filled in for Captain Marvel when she was great. She was one of them. It was Monica Rambeau.
Rambeau.
Yeah. I think now she goes by Spectrum, but
Spectrum's what she has.
Something like that. Yeah. Because I just read, that was the last thing I read before I saw the movie. in the Kelly Sue run. Is she meant back up, which I thought was really cool because they used the Photon name, which was her name that she took over after for her mom.
And the neat thing here, of course, is that when we go to present day, young Monica will be of adult age, similar to Brie Larson. So they'll have this kind of bond.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so they're getting their cake and eating it too, which is cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, my technical fault here, I'm using this scene to kind of really accent it. So Brie Larson walks out of the scene, and we see Maria's head look up, right, in this kind of wide shot. Here's the problem I have with this, about it being underexposed. You can't see her reaction. She's completely in shadow, and you can't see her face react to the moment where she sees her friend, who she thought was dead years ago. The scene is robbed of the moment that it's built around because it's underexposed. And there was several stuff at the start when they're on like one of the spaceships, like sneaking about and fighting and stuff. It's all too dark. You can't see things. There's some of the fight scenes that you can't just make sense of at some points because the movie's just too dark. It's not Alien versus Predator too dark, but it's unsatisfying. It looks murky.
So I just want to point out too, you're talking about how they the style they all meld together. And I just pulled up the cinematographer who's Ben Davis, and he's done Guardians of the Galaxy, Age of Ultron, Doctor Strange, and Captain Marvel. So it seems like they're using the same crew a lot for these. But then he's also done stuff like Seven Psychopaths, which is a Martin McDonagh movie, which is completely different than any of those other movies I just mentioned, or The Dead. And I'm trying to find out. He was the cinematographer on 3 Billboards last year.
This is a I wouldn't necessarily say an argument, but this is something I have a conversation I have with a friend of mine a lot, because he really, I wouldn't say he hates the Marvel movies, but his big complaint about them is that they're not visually distinctive, which I think there are a few that stand out. Like, definitely like Thor Ragnarok doesn't look like any other Marvel movie, but I do understand that complaint. Like there's not enough that like sets them apart visually, but
that's what I feel like.
It doesn't bother me that much though.
The top one's the top because I feel like Winter Soldier feels like a 70s spy movie. Just the way that the Russos shot it. And then Thor Ragnarok, however you feel about the story, the way that Taika had it shot, there's nothing else in the Marvel.
Cool. And it's not like
similar.
It's not like it's like a deal breaker, because like Avengers is still my favorite MCU movie, and I think it's one of the least visually interesting. I mean, what's happening on the screen is great, but it doesn't look like that exciting as a stylistic piece of filmmaking. And if you, because I was thinking, I mentioned Alien vs Predator. Like, think of the original Predator. If you look at a screenshot from Predator, right? Like, think of the nighttime scene when he's fighting Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's like it's night, and there's the glow of the fire, and you've got this great prosthetic like alien, face. And then I'm thinking of scenes in this where we're just standing talking to a Skrull, and it just feels so like dull and lifeless in comparison. There's no pop to it.
So you went through film school and stuff. Do you credit that to the director or to the cinematographer?
But both.
Or is it a combo of both?
And technically, I did Matt always likes to spread that I did film school. I didn't technically do film school. I did television production. So just for the record.
Whatever. It's not the same thing, right?
But I mean, both. Both are at fault.
If I had to guess, I feel like these are such studio-led movies that I'm assuming that's probably more where the fault lies. Like, I'm not saying that the directors are bad or don't have like as much a ton of freedom, but they're probably maybe a little more restricted. Or
I'll disagree with this, Tim, because Predator was a studio movie, and I think the point I'm making is it's the studio movies that I'm thinking about that used to look really good, but it's almost like the standard.
I'm not necessarily talking about like the underexposed problem. I'm just talking about more about the not really having a visually distinctive styles or whatever. But I do agree with what you're saying. Like I guess I didn't I don't think I have as much of an eye for this kind of stuff as you do, but now that you bring that up, when I'm kind of thinking back about it, like I can see what you're saying. And I don't think it ruined much of the enjoyment of the movie for me, but it probably would have been nicer to have it look a little better.
It's one of those things that would elevate it. It's one of those things that would take it from what it is and then add this extra element to it where it feels more like a spectacle. I don't think there's a spectacle in this movie, not really. There's a couple of outrageous things that happen with her powers or whatever, but I don't feel spectacle from it in the way that I do from, I don't know, to pick a movie with spectacle. I can't think of one, but
Spectacular, no?
Yeah. I mean, I guess what I'm saying
not quite.
I don't know why I keep going back to Predator, but just like the final fight in Predator, right? I get maybe because it's an alien. That's maybe why I'm thinking of that. But the final fight
You're talking about the original Predator.
Original Predator, yes.
Okay.
Original Predator. Final fight is just Arnold and the Predator in a jungle, and it's riveting. It's like you understand where everyone is at all times. It's like everything's visually distinct, and you feel this kind of build in the fight. Likewise, in contrast to that, the final fights in Captain Marvel, and I'm thinking of specifically when she's fighting like other characters, not like bigger stuff that happens after. It's basically like just a mess of shots. You can't really tell what's going on in half of the fight scene. It's just you get a sense of what's happening, and there's like a pop song playing to give you like a mood. That's kind of it.
Yeah, I mean, I got tricked by the pop song that played, just because.
Yeah, I'm not against the pop song. That's not a diss against the song.
But I'm just saying that I didn't pick up on any of this because I got like, oh shit, I like the song.
Yeah.
Right? and the fight scene's going in beat with the rhythm of the song too. So like, it's almost like magic where they're distracting you to not pay attention too much to that. But Pete's like, no, man, I know how this trick works.
Yeah, I felt underwhelmed with the fighting, I guess. And to compare it to something that's similar to, or something that's kind of related to Predator, to compare something to Alien, the design at the start of like some of the ships that are on the Skrull ship, when Captain Marvel's like running around the Skrull ship, and I'm like, it's this dark ship, right? And I'm like, it's not that it's dark that's the problem. Like, you go watch Alien, that ship is dark as shit, but it feels so like there's so much depth to the image. There's so much like stuff going on. There's so many there's gears everywhere. It feels wet.
It definitely feels like they're on a set.
Yeah, it feels like they're on a set. Yeah. It feels like they're on a set, a kind of a bland set.
Which I get what you're saying about the TV production and stuff is like because it's they're doing it as quick as possible, cheap as possible when they don't have to because they have a budget.
I
kind of get what you're saying there.
Yeah, I'd agree. Like some of like the Kree stuff and some of the stuff in the beginning wasn't like super interesting to look at. I kind of disagree though with the fight scene stuff because I don't feel like I ever couldn't understand what was going on. Like, I mean, maybe if I go back and watch it now, like if I'm looking for it, maybe I'd be like, okay, yeah, that was.
Like, I'm not saying it's completely nonsensical. I'm not saying it's like Transformers from Michael Bay where you can't tell anything that's happening when they're fighting. But like, there's definitely
I
like.
always feel
it's like
too, that's. Go ahead.
I was gonna say there's like punctuation in the fight scenes that you understand. You understand at the end of the hit when she's got a one-liner. You understand this moment here, but there's just like stuff in the middle of the fighting where there's actual like just back and forth where it's like it's just a mess of things happening. There's not really.
It definitely feels like chopped up, especially because like they're switching between characters and stuff. So I'll give you that.
I guess with the design of the ships and stuff that I was talking about, the production design. I guess the way I'd phrase it, and just not even just production, but just the CG of the Kree world and stuff like that, is I almost get this feeling it's like, well, we have to do like an alien world and we have to do spaceships, but that's not really what we're interested in doing in the movie. We're just doing it because it has to be there, not because we're actually excited about making a kind of the sci-fi side of it. So it's just kind of here's just like a standard version of what that would be, without much passion. But I mean. I wanted to get my complaints out of the way first, but if I feel like I'm being overly negative, like after this, I don't have a lot of bad things to say. But
so my main negative from the film was I was like at a certain point I was like, guys, I get it, we're in the 90s. Like some of the music choices just were so out there and straight in the face, and I appreciate some of the comedic things that happened with the 90s setting, but it was mainly the music, and I feel like. After Guardians, they kind of wanted to play with the soundtracks, but I really feel like you have to be James Gunn, and it's a tightrope to walk. And I feel like here the songs they picked was like, sometimes I felt like I was watching a commercial from like the 90s.
I actually didn't have as much of a problem with the because obviously it's kind of relentless. There's a lot of 90s tracks that play. I think bizarrely because I grew up in the 90s, enough of them were ones that I knew that I had enough nostalgia for that it just kind of worked. But I'm like, okay, I'm hearing "Come As You Are," I'm hearing "Garbage." It only happens. I'm only happy when it rains. I'm hearing
so like the "Come As You Are" I thought worked really well for the scene that it was in.
Yeah,
and then No Doubt's "I'm Just a Girl" as well. I know, but some of them they were just here's another one and Here's
Yeah.
another one. And I was like, all right, guys, let's push pause on the playlist for a second and let me see what's going on here.
I think for me it was just enough that it didn't really go over the edge, because that actually was something like I was concerned about. Like, yeah, is it just gonna be, you know, completely over the top, constant 90s jokes? But I mean, maybe it's because you know, I'm old enough now that I'm feeling more nostalgic for that time period.
Yeah.
But most of the stuff, you know, worked for me, and you know, but I also feel like it wasn't ever like, you know, too much. But I don't know, that might just be like a personal thing at that point.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there wasn't too many things. There was a joke about a disc loading at one point, and like,
Yeah.
you know, the internet being slow, but it wasn't too bad. If anything, I'd almost argue it didn't utilize the fact that it was the 90s enough. Like, it almost felt like it didn't matter. Like, outside of one or two jokes, it was like, this could have been just present day. Obviously, it can't be because it has to be set before everything, but
Right.
the actual time period almost was meaningless to the overall thing.
Like her using the map, like the one you talked about earlier, and she
Yeah.
peeks over the edge of it. Like, to see a map that big anymore for us, because they're all on our phones.
Yeah.
You know, like, so that was that. I got some laughs out of that one.
Yeah, we're walking sat navs, basically.
Yeah, you know, so but no, I mean, so for me to say that's like my biggest negative takeaway, I think that's a pretty good sign for the movie.
Yeah, I mean,
definitely.
I had my technical complaints, which I went into now. I think the other complaint I would be is I do think the script's a little bit messy in places. I think like the villain, which I can't even talk about because it's a bit of a swerve, but I will say I think the villain, surprise, surprise, in the Marvel movie, the villain's the weakest part. But it's kind of true again, where it's there to serve the. Even though I like kind of some stuff that the plot did later on, the actual villain themselves was just kind of like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever.
Because of this swerve, I'm not sure which you're talking about.
Yeah, sure.
I'm excited to when we get there.
There we get spoilers. So I would say that I'd say there's a couple of clunky elements like that, and like I said, I think the first like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and kind of going along with my complaints about the production design and the design of the sci-fi stuff, it almost felt like the movie itself was uninterested in doing that section. It was almost like it's here because it has to be, but we're not really that interested in giving you a fun like spaceship sort of section where it's like get to Earth as quickly as possible. But once it gets to Earth, I pretty much enjoy the rest of it. And obviously the cat rocks. There's a cat who's the main character.
Yeah, Goose.
Yeah. So I'm down. I'm down
Goose
with
is
that.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah.
Well, it's so funny because so it's been a while since I read the comics, but I don't know if you can confirm this, Matt. But isn't the cat in the comics named Chewie?
Yeah. Cat's named Chewie.
But
it's still an orange cat.
Yeah, it's just so weird though because me and Pete just did Critters, which the cat in that is named Chewie.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Yeah, that's really funny. I think they probably thought, oh, it's kind of weird because we also own Star Wars, so maybe they didn't want to do that.
But someone pointed out to me too, though, it would make sense that a pilot would have a cat named after a Top Gun character.
Yeah.
So it works out.
Especially since that cat would have been named in the late 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
If I had one, maybe again, also like, you know, very minor thing, but and it's kind of weird because I'm usually not like, you know, for, you know, having, you know, too much origin stuff and backstory stuff, but I felt like they could have gone a little bit more into some of her backstory, because you really only get like, you know, kind of some like glimpses of it, but then you know, you discover it, but it's like discovering it in present time. Like there's not a lot of like actual flashbacks or anything.
Yeah.
No, but I feel like
not a huge complaint, but
no, but I feel like it did inform us enough without, you know, I always say using a scalpel versus a sledgehammer, and I felt like here they definitely use the scalpel to show us her character, and it's always who she's been from the time she was a girl. So I appreciated that it wasn't so overdone.
Yeah.
And
it's used really effectively by like that kind of, you know, that like last scene towards the end was very
because the counterpoint to that is that it is almost too simple, her character, in terms of her backstory, in the sense that she's defined basically by one driving thing, and that's it, and that's her character. But I guess it's like, well, do you want to bog yourself down origin story stuff, or do you want to, you know, do other things instead? And at this point, it's a difficult decision, because it's like, well, does it feel almost recessive to go back to just a full-on origin movie again, this deep into the MCU?
Yeah,
Well,
it seemed weird.
Doctor Strange did that, and it's in my lower,
Oh yeah.
and no fault of much of the rest of that movie, but it's just like an interesting
Mhm.
origin story,
I would
and
debate that and say it's got nothing to do with it being an origin story. It's just bad. But
well, that too,
each their own.
That's part of
but
it.
yeah,
But
but
my thing is, I don't. Well, I think like to Matt's point, I actually really don't like There's only two Marvel movies that I don't like, and it's Iron Man 2 and Doctor Strange. And I love Doctor Strange as a character, but I
yeah.
I love him in Infinity War. So
Mhm.
it's yeah, maybe part of it is yeah, because it's so much origin based and that kind of going through the motion stuff where
Yeah.
uh you know
And
obviously you
there
still
are
love the
parts of
character.
it I really enjoy, like him against Dormammu. I thought was really inspired
I do
and
love that,
different
yeah. I
because
will say
it
that,
didn't
yeah.
feel like it was a paint by numbers. Oh, he's gonna beat what's his face?
They're not just gonna have a big CGI fight and
Well,
boom, it's
yeah,
done.
God, he was Hannibal, Mads Mikkelsen.
Oh
Yes.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, like oh, they're gonna have this fight where he's fighting a version of himself, and it was a little bit
Oh
different.
god,
And here,
I forgot Mads Mikkelsen was even in that movie. They
yeah,
wasted him. They
dude,
wasted him so hard.
him and
I couldn't
Mendelsohn
even
are getting the double Star Wars Marvel checks right
Yeah.
now.
oh,
So
yeah, I couldn't even tell you who that character was. I completely
Yeah.
forgot. Like I
Nor could
remember
I.
Dormammu and uh what's his face?
Wong.
Well not Wong, but the other the bad guy that was kind of like his
Chiwetel,
rival.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know the
But
actor you're talking about. But I don't remember his name.
it's
Um,
it begins with a B. It's like Baron Bordeaux, something like that.
Barry Mordo.
Baron Moore. There you
Yeah.
go.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
so
that's enough to tell you. But then also, I've heard this compared to Black Panther, where I feel like Black Panther was a little bit better at handling who exactly T'Challa was and
Yeah.
what it meant for him to be Black Panther. Versus here with Carol, I still feel like, sure, she's Captain Marvel in name, but she still has these things to do
Yeah, and
that's
I think
to make
because of
her.
yeah, and I think, and this is also something I think is kind of interesting about it is part of the movie is that she's kind of still figuring out who she is, because like even once she or what once she learns stuff,
Yeah, when
it's
she
still
puts the
like
puzzle together.
yeah, it's still not like oh, okay, I'm this completely new person now. It's like you still got stuff to work out and figure out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
and I feel like that's when they, when the movie leaves off with her, you're like, oh, okay, well, cool. Now she's Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
So, I can't really see
although,
what's
I mean,
next.
correct me if I'm wrong, but the name Captain Marvel is never used, right? Like that's never actually
Oh,
uttered. So we might actually still
Yeah.
have that moment. We might still have the "You're Captain
yeah.
Marvel" moment.
Yeah.
Well, so we'll just call her then she's Vers, right? Like she's adopted that
Um,
personality.
It's interesting bringing up Black Panther actually because it's probably the one that you compare it to the most. I think you could maybe compare it to Thor, the first Thor, a little bit, and the fish out of water
Yeah.
stuff. But I think Black Panther is the one to compare it to in the sense that they're both very culturally relevant movies, and they both have faults. Although I think what's funny is I think objectively Black Panther is the better movie overall. I think Black Panther has the better script, and the villain has the more interesting motivation. I think. Captain Marvel also does something with the villain story that is interesting that I didn't see coming, which was nice.
Yeah.
And I think it appeals to me a little bit more just because it's more sci-fi and like space stuff and aliens and shit. It's just more my wheelhouse. But Black Panther is probably objectively the better movie, although it has the weaker third act because the third act in Black Panther is this just CG fight between two CG characters and it falters a bit because of that.
And I didn't feel like the final fight here felt like that because I immediately thought of you because that's your big takeaway from Black Panther is the CG fight and the final act in Captain Marvel, it gets pretty CG, but I never felt like that.
Well,
they did in
because the moment in
Black
Captain Marvel,
Panther.
we're getting spoilers, of course, but the moment in Captain Marvel is more of a statement about who she is now, as opposed to having a fight, and I think that's why it works, regardless of the effects maybe not being perfect. But
yeah, I'm glad both are good. I'm glad neither of them really stumbled, especially going forward. Because now, so I said I went to go look for Captain Marvel stuff because I really want a shirt with her logo on it, and I'm still finding Black Panther merch. Like he's culturally relevant, and I think that's really cool especially for comics and the fans right now.
We just heard today that Captain Marvel opened to 155 million, and then domestic, and then it's already made 450 worldwide. So it's it's going to make a shit ton of money. It's going to be relevant, and we see like photos of like Spider-Verse, and we see young black kids going to see Spider-Verse. We see young girls going to see Captain Marvel, and it's like, hey, maybe like making movies for everyone all along was maybe a good idea, And I know those people upset right now that Samuel L. Jackson was shown doing dishes. I know that's like so emasculating to some people out there, but.
Man, if you're a guy out there of a certain age and never washed a dish, I feel sorry for you. It's like, grow up and take care of yourself. If you're waiting for someone else to do your cleanup after yourself, you got more problems than flipping Captain Marvel hurting your feelings.
I mean, like, just although to play devil's advocate, if I was filthy rich, I would pay someone to do it.
Yeah, but I also feel if you're filthy rich, you're not going to be bothered by
Samuel L. Jackson. Yes, I'm not bothered. I'm just going to say that I hate doing dishes. If I could pay someone to do my dishes, I totally would.
Yeah. And like one of the things I really like, with this is, I saw this with my wife, and afterwards, it's cool that like she was pumped and excited and wanted to know more about the character and like read some comics, and it's like, yeah, this is cool, and it's understandable that she doesn't have that same reaction when we go see the 12th Captain America movie or anything. Not that she doesn't like those movies or anything, but it's different, and it's cool to see like other people get excited about this stuff.
Yeah, my friend. Go ahead, Pete.
I was gonna say, I mean, it's like the weird thing is like I can't even relate to that feeling, but the reason why I can't relate to it is because I've never been deprived of a straight white dude. Yeah. I've never been deprived of that in my life, so I don't know what it feels like to go to a movie and be like, oh, finally a straight white dude's the hero. I can relate to this asshole. Yeah. Like, I don't know what it feels like to have that feeling.
My she's one of my best friends. She's like my sister, and she's been to a ton of the Marvel movies with us, and she goes sees all the superhero movies, and she went into this one going like, yeah, it's gonna be cool, it's whatever, and she left. She goes, I think I have a new favorite Avenger. Like, Carol's really cool, and she really relates to her because she's this, she's the type that like, don't tell her she's not going to do something. Yeah. I learned this. I learned this when we took our nieces to a rock climbing place for like a birthday party, and I was like, you're not going to beat me up that wall, and she did, and it wasn't even close. And so I felt like it was cool to see her feel this kinship with Carol, and then. Yesterday when we went to the mall, she's buying a hat and a shirt and stuff because she really, that's her character now.
Yeah, I mean, I we can't not talk about this. I mean, obviously we're going to get to spoilers soon, but we can do this before spoilers, so that's why I'm bringing it up now. Yeah. But the insane hatred and reactions of your internet assholes to this movie, the fact that Rotten Tomatoes finally this should have always been the case, but Rotten Tomatoes finally realized that they shouldn't let people review movies until after the movie's been released. I mean, I know that sounds like a strange idea to most people, but and it says something that when they did open reviews back up when the movie came out, instantly there was thousands of negative reviews. It was being review bombed left and right, and it's just like, you could try all you want, but this is the 6th highest grossing opening weekend worldwide of all time. I mean, you can sit and debate if it's deserving that. Do I think it's the 6th best movie of all time? I don't. I don't. But
well, no, but that's why box office is never the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Quality.
The point I'm making is that you're not squashing it. You're not diminishing its impact, and it's it's not a perfect movie, but like most of the other ones aren't either. Like this is better than a lot of the others. It is.
Yeah, I have this up in my upper third because now at 22 movies in, you can make like
quadrants,
like, tiers. Yeah, and it's in my upper third easily.
I think that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I wouldn't put it in the top tier, but I think it's like upper middle.
I think it's in the middle tier. I don't think like. I'd have to sit down and rank them all again. This is becoming every year. It's like, okay, now we've got 30 movies to rank. Hold on, give me a minute.
I definitely. It's not quite in my top 5, but I also like maybe it's between like 6 and 11, like in that section of it.
I could see that,
But I also like have this weird love of the first Ant-Man movie. So I'm
That's
weird.
really good.
Don't take exactly what I'm saying.
No,
you know,
that's a great one. I mean,
but
there's
yeah.
yeah.
No, I was saying the vitriol is hilarious on this.
Yeah,
Now I just sit back
yeah.
and laugh. Like I wanted to get angry, but then when I'm starting to read some of these comments, like it only made 450 million, the boycott worked, and I just have to laugh because it's like it's like in Toy Story when he goes, "You're a sad, strange little man," and
Yeah, it's the moving the goalposts so that their narrative works. That's the
Yeah.
thing that makes me laugh. Do you know what's funny actually is that I feel like the reaction to this weird sexist backlash is much worse, at least from memory. Some people can correct me if I'm wrong in this, but I don't remember the racist backlash to Black Panther being as extreme as this. And it reminds me of a tweet that Patton Oswalt made after Trump got elected. He said, "It turns out America is much more sexist than it is racist, and it's pretty goddamn racist."
Yeah.
And it just made me think of that. I was like, yeah, for some reason, this one is getting a lot more like this vitriol all over the internet, and I don't understand why.
And I feel like it has to do with a lot of them that don't like Brie Larson for whatever stupid reason. And it's like, okay, that's fine, but are you that insecure that the lady on TV said something you didn't like that you're gonna go and try to tear something down? And it's like prioritize your life, man. Like,
what I just don't understand is like, why do they like? It's one thing if you don't like this character, you don't like the movie, you don't want to see it, that's fine. But I don't understand why people think it's like an attack on them. like people act like this movie is like trying to beat them up or something.
Yeah, it's fine if you don't like it off of its own merits. You're just like, yeah, it didn't work for me. Yeah. But I haven't seen too many of those negative reviews. You know, I have just seen the one where I didn't like what she said, and therefore it's a bad movie.
No, I mean, there's definitely been negative reviews that are more fair. They're kind of like taking what I said and kind of going further with it, and maybe some of the other things didn't work as well for them. Like they do exist, but there is so much of this wanting to hate it because it's a platform to be angry about. It's a platform to complain and say, "Oh, Brie Larson hates men, so this is all anti-male propaganda." And this is a fabrication. This is a fabrication. And like,
is it bad that I think like she can hate me all she wants as long as she knows who I am and like would talk to me? Like that's cool. I don't care. I love Brie Larson. Like
she's great.
But she doesn't hate men though. This is the weird thing. What did she say? She said, "Oh, I think the press, the journalists shouldn't all be middle-aged white men. It should because the point she was making is that the people talking about the movie should reflect who the movie's for. And in this case, because it is a female superhero movie for females, there should be more ladies who are actually in the conversation about it. It makes
in the age of the internet where there's not like 50 newspapers that have to fill this. There's like so many different news outlets. I feel like only sending the same type of dude to these press things is doing everyone a disservice. Like, and so there's a guy that I'm kind of familiar with through wrestling circles named Nick Mundy, and he had the best thing that's like, have you ever been to a press junket? Because I'm pretty sure I saw the same guy like in different rooms. It's weird. So he's like, yeah, she's right. Like, let's make this more diverse in that, like, you can get fun, different takes, and it's not all the same. Because that's another problem with the internet is I feel like sometimes there's too much noise of everybody just saying the same thing because everyone wants their thing out there. And this backlash boycott, I feel like they got together and they prepared a script because they're always all along the same lines.
It feels that way sometimes.
So if you're not gonna like her because that, and quit calling her wooden. Because if you think she was wooden after watching her in the movie, you're really only basing it off of the trailers and not the movie itself. Because this is a woman that...
come on. Are you shocked that the people making these complaints have mostly not seen the movie?
But I just want to point out, this is a woman that won an Oscar playing against a kid. I'm not an actor, but I know that's got to be difficult. Like to get a performance out of that, and that's the main person you're reacting with is like how old was he at that point? Like 6, 7?
Yeah, he was really young.
Yeah, like come on, she's not Hayden Christensen.
All right, Tim was taken by scrolls there for a second, and we're back now. Though we're back, we're all back. So I guess it's time to get to spoilers. I actually have no idea what we were saying before we had to cut off there suddenly, but I think we're wrapping up the point about hateful people and just don't be hateful. And
The only thing I hate that makes inconvenient for me is like when you don't like one of these movies, but then you have to clarify. I didn't like this movie, but not because
Yeah.
of this
Actually,
reason. Like
Connor was complaining about that on Twitter. Actually, that he isn't that excited about seeing Captain Marvel, but he hates the fact that he has to like specify that. No, I don't want to be lumped in with those other idiots who are all saying that for all these bad reasons.
I just don't like Marvel films.
I just don't like Marvel
Yeah.
movies that much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Because as soon as you say that, you get like some douchebag like, "Right on, brother, welcome to the fold," and you're like, "No, no."
No, I'm not one of you.
Get away from me.
Anyway, so we'll get spoilers. So full spoilers. You've been warned. Full spoilers for Captain Marvel from this point on. So, where to begin with this? Well, let's
want to do
swerve.
Carol first, or do you want to do Scrolls first?
Do Scrolls.
Or
Let's do
Nick
the Scrolls.
Fury's eye.
Okay.
Oh, we'll get to Nick Fury's eye. Don't you worry.
Yeah. So here's the thing with the Scrolls. I'm not that familiar. Like I know that they were associated with Fantastic Four and all this other stuff. And the most I've ever read them was for Secret Invasion, right? So where they infiltrate all the superheroes, and now you don't know who's a Skrull and who can you trust. And when I heard the Skrulls were involved with this movie, I thought, oh, maybe we're sowing the seeds for post Endgame will be Secret Invasion. And then Captain Marvel happens, and I was like, "Oh no, that's not the case at all."
No,
the Skrulls are not what I thought they were.
No, they went. I would actually almost compare it to a Star Trek kind of plot in the sense that they went with this idea that
It's the third time you brought up Star Trek today.
it is, but this is the only one that's actually like I think relevant because it feels it feels Star Trek in the sense that. Like because often in Star Trek they'll go to a planet, this race will seem scary or evil or whatever, and then it'll turn out no, they're actually just like they aren't the bad guys, right? It's this kind of realization, and that's what this kind of movie is that ultimately Captain Marvel finds out that no, the Kree are the bad guys. They've been exterminating this race of beings, and the bad. I mean, sure, he's done some bad stuff. He has hurt some people, but he even says himself at one point his hands aren't clean in this war. But he's looking for his family, because ultimately they find this hidden. Because the MacGuffin they're looking for, this power core, which turns out to be the Cosmic Cube.
The Tesseract.
The Tesseract. Yeah, which I thought was a nice touch.
Yeah, so I also went through and read after the movie about the Kree Skrull War because I had no idea about this.
Yeah.
And in the like little footnote sections, they talk about how the Skrulls created the first cosmic cube. So I thought that was a fun little, Easter egg to that. Yeah. Like that's what was fueling this entire.
Yeah, because I mean, if you go back to early Marvel movies, like Fury and Shield had that cube. They had that before anything else happened. So it makes sense that they ended up with it at the end of this movie.
Yeah, so I didn't know much about the movie going in. Like obviously I knew about the character, but I didn't really know what the movie was gonna do and who the bad guys were. And I remember hearing stuff about the Skrulls, but I was surprised that they're bringing like the Kree Skrull War into it. And I wonder if it is something that they might go into more in depth later, because that is a big Avengers storyline. So I don't know if.
So I read the wiki article on it, and it's very of its time in the 70s.
Yeah.
So if they do choose to go that way, I feel like they can. Like here was the best way to do it because they cut out a lot of the fluff and I like what they did too because coming into this I was like, oh yeah, the Kree they're cool, and in the trailer she's like, yeah, we're noble warriors, heroes.
Yeah.
And then I thought back to every time I've seen the Kree in the MCU.
Yeah, between Ronan, who's in this movie as well, from Guardians, and then from the Kree we've seen in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I was glad that eventually the big blue bastards did show up, and I was like, yeah, these are the Kree that I know. Like, these are the Kree that I understand. But no, I did genuinely really like the swerve that this was not about fighting the Skrulls. This was about ultimately, no, the Skrulls aren't the bad guys. We actually want to help them.
They're refugees looking for a place to call their own, and I really like that because they can fit in to anywhere, right? Because they can shape change, and yet still the Kree are coming after them. So it's really not about the Skrulls being different. They just don't want them there because they're not Kree. And I thought that was a really like a powerful message for Captain Marvel to stand against. Well, no, they I'm gonna help these people.
Yeah. I think it definitely works, and I like that they were sympathetic and kind of like what Pete mentioned earlier. I do like that they're not like completely innocent though. Like the guy does mention like, hey, I got blood on my hands too, but at this point I kind of just went out. Like I like that
Mhm.
idea of like, yeah, war is a messy thing, and but there are like people that get caught in it and then
Yeah.
just want out. And I also like actually one thing that like I was like a little worried about going in is like if it was gonna be very like pro like since Captain Marvel is in like the Air Force and stuff. I didn't
Right.
and I think like the Air Force actually like uh I don't know like paid for some of this movie or something.
Yeah, so
So
she went. I was reading Brie Larson came out here to Nellis Air Force Base to meet
yeah.
with like the Thunderbirds and different Air Force, and
Mm.
they gave it a seal of approval. Like this
That's
has just like Top Gun did.
yeah.
So,
Mm.
which is really cool.
So
But I get what you're saying. You didn't know if it was going to be this like,
I
yeah, war's cool, right?
yeah,
Like,
like
uh,
obviously I don't want to discourage anyone in
yeah,
the Air Force or anything, but
no,
I was worried there might be like some like propaganda or something to
Yeah.
it, or
yeah,
If
but I
anything, it actually kind of like because one of the points to bring up is that when they were because obviously before she left and went to the accident happened, she went to the Kree homeworld. They mentioned that they weren't allowed to fight in combat. Like they were
yeah,
test pilots for these special crafts
yeah.
because they weren't at that time women weren't allowed to fight in combat in planes. So
Mhm.
it doesn't shy away from the negative
no.
aspects of it.
Which
Yeah.
that was an aspect of Kelly Sue's initial run because there's this whole side story of Carol that involves time travel, and she meets her
Oh yeah.
mentor, who I feel like Annette Bening was based off of, and I'm
I
drawing a
think
blank
so.
on her name.
Yeah.
But that was her whole story that she was this awesome pilot, but she couldn't fly in wars. So she made a deal with like NASA and everything to be like test pilots for space. And then they tried to take that away. And so this mentor of hers, ends up being this icon for women pilots. And that's who Carol really looks up to. So that's what I was talking about when I was really surprised. That's where this went was, yeah, it's not 100% in line with the story, but the spirit of it's still there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I like at the end of the day, like Carol is someone who she'll do what's right as opposed to what she's told, or or she's basically ultimately sides with good as opposed to like whoever she's
Yeah,
working for.
because when you find out when she was brought to the Kree homeworld and they're gonna exploit her for her powers and put
Mhm.
her on this group with Jude Law, which his name's John Rogg, I think.
Yeah, you're in Rob.
Yeah.
Yeah, such a weird name. Um, I'm surprised I remembered it. But like that was that whole thing about like doing what's right versus following orders,
Yeah.
and Digimon Hansu, is he playing the same character he was in
Guardians?
Guardians?
Oh yeah,
I would assume so.
Korath, I think.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
Korath, yeah.
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 Yeah, I thought that was a nice little touch because like
Mhm.
I didn't like when I first saw him I was like, that looks familiar. Is that the guy from
Yeah.
like Guardians? And I was like, oh okay, this is cool. Like
Yeah.
so-
For those that don't know, he's the one that goes to Star-Lord, the Who,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
him. Yeah, he's the Who guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I like that, and I like seeing all of these like you keep bringing up Predator, and I felt like this was that squad of the Kree. Like each of them had a specialty. Like you had the sniper, and then the sword guy that was Korath, and it was this fun little thing, and then it goes sideways, and you're like, oh man, maybe these guys aren't good guys.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
there's some thematic things going on in here, like the idea that the whole time she's actually more powerful than she knows, but she's being dampened by the Kree. And yeah, I think that the obvious symbolism there is the idea of women being kept down and not being allowed
Yep.
to reach their full potential because they're held back by the system. This is literally the Kree are, nullifying her power.
Actually holding her down.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
yeah, I like I mean, I don't know if some people might not like it, like if it's too socially relevant, but I like that basically the bad guy is just this dude that's like gaslighting her the whole movie. Like,
Yeah.
he just constantly is telling her like, oh, you're not as good as me, and like, you'll never,
Yeah.
even though she is obviously better. And I like that it basically ends with him just being like, all right, you have to fight me, but on my terms. Like,
Yeah.
you have to let me
Because
decide.
well, it
like,
remembers
how
the
I'm
start
best
of the
gonna
movie
win.
because the start of the
Yeah.
movie it's a training sequence with them, and it's like she kind of wins, but she only wins by using
Don't-
her photon blast. And
Right,
then
yeah.
he's like, "No, you'll never beat me just on your own merits." And at the end of the movie, after everyone's been down, he's already lost, but he's like, "No, fight me one on one, like properly, and see if you can actually win." And I kind of called it was going to be the indie moment, like it was
Oh.
it was kind of building up to it.
My favorite moment of the movie, I
Yeah.
feel, because I was like, I leaned over to Ash and I was like, she's gonna indie him, and she goes, "What do you mean?" I go, "Just watch."
Yeah.
And when she did it, I like big fist pump, and I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
"Okay."
And she walks over.
Carol's my kind of
Yeah,
girl.
and she walks over and says, "I have nothing to prove to you," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's the point of the movie, right? There you go. There it is, right there."
Yeah.
But like that, like I think it works its social themes into the film pretty effortlessly. I think it's not necessarily always subtle, but I think my problems with the villain aren't necessarily the themes that are coming from. It's just him as a character himself is just kind of dull, and he's just he kind of leaves the movie for a while, and then he comes back when it's relevant at the end.
Yeah.
It's
So,
just
so
kinda...
you're definitely talking about Jude Law.
Yeah, Jude Law. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to spoil the whole scroll thing because I brought up Mendelsohn was the villain, and I loved his performance, just especially as you find out like he's doing this all for his family, and he's just kind of this I don't want to call him middle management, but like when the science guy messes something up, he goes, "Come on, man, you're our science guy," you know. Like it's weird that the green skinned lizard guy is far more relatable than Jude Law, right?
Yeah. Oh, but he is. Yeah, he actually is. And that goes back again to using aliens and sci-fi as as analogies for real things, and so no, it works really well, and she has great chemistry with her best friend and obviously little Monica, the daughter. She kind of idolizes her, which I'm sure will work out really well when we come back to present day and future movies. Which I really hope. Like my one worry is that the next one will actually be set like between this and Infinity War. Like it'll be.
I hope not. I hope they just take the momentum of her being with the Avengers.
Yeah, I want to present day.
Yeah, well, we know that a lot of those Avenger guys, as far as we know right now, are done with Endgame, whether their characters survive the movie or not. And
there's
going to be openings.
I expect that she'll still be there for future Avenger movies. Like she'll be one of the main characters, but I'm worried that the solo movies will be like, no, let's keep them as like period pieces almost. But now the next one will be in space because it's all just like Skrull and Kree stuff. And well, that might be fine. I don't know. I want her in present day.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I want to plan out those. So there was when the last trailer came out, there was all of this talk about there was these big spaces in the lineup. And stuff. Do we think that she's there in those now? So it looks like a character was digitally removed. Do we think it's her?
Oh, sure.
For what? What is this?
So Timmy, remember how in the trailers for Infinity War they tricked us by putting in Hulk when Hulk wasn't actually there in scenes? Right. So people are thinking that there's some shots in the latest Endgame trailer where they've digitally removed a character or two. Probably being her.
I'm thinking that definitely now with how this ended and whatnot. Like, I definitely think that's good. I'm glad that they don't want to spoil things.
Yeah.
You know.
Please, that first Endgame trailer was like perfect. Like I feel like it just it barely showed you anything. Like I was really happy about that.
Honestly, even after two trailers and a mid-credit scene in this, which I think is just a scene from Endgame, like I still feel like they are holding it so close to the chest, like they really are. And the movie's out next month. Like it's literally out next month.
I forget.
Well, I'm glad. I remember the dude that plays Kylo. I always draw a blank. That if it was up to him, Star Wars wouldn't have trailers.
Yeah.
Because like you kind of know what you're in for, and I like that. And I feel like they've taken this approach as of late with their bigger movies, like Endgame and like we don't even know the title of the next Star Wars movie, let alone have a trailer. So
the Star Wars trailer should just have someone from the movie just walking like into the screen and looking at you and saying Star Wars and then a date. And then, that's all you need.
But I want to talk about Ronan because he's I get that he's kind of like this nothing of a villain, but there's something about him in the first Guardians that I'm just drawn to. And
Matt, if you know, because you're asking for some reading recommendations earlier, it seems like everyone was pointing towards Annihilation. If you do go for that, Ronan is a bigger character in that.
Okay. There's just something about him being like this fanatic, like religious guy that he's right because, you know. And so when he showed up here and you find out that the accusers are basically this division of world bombers that just come and drop bombs endlessly. it tied that back to Guardians in the way like he's really never had to get his hands dirty. He just kind of stands up from in his ship and drops bombs. They win and then he leaves. So I felt like even the small amount he's in this movie, I felt it did his character a little bit more. Or maybe I'm just rationalizing.
It's interesting to me how we're slowly building like parts of the cosmic side. Where now we've had 2 movies where Kree have showed up, where like the idea of the Nova Corps that's been established. We have these different things now between Guardians, between Thor Ragnarok, and between this, where we've set up these parts of the universe where. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if like the next big thing they build to is something like Annihilation or something,
That'd be dope.
So it wouldn't surprise me. I wanted to. So actually, since you bring up Ronan, I want to bring up the final kind of big climatic thing. It's just so she takes off the thing, the inhibitor in the back of her neck, and at that point on, I love that the team of Kree don't have a chance. They're all screwed because she basically just unlocks Superman level powers, and it's like you're nothing now. You're nothing, and she goes through them, and this is when Ronan shows up. He's got the big ship, and he launches all these missiles at Earth, and Carol just starts flying through the air and going through them, and then she ends up like going through an entire ship and blowing it up, and it's the whole thing. And then Ronan, do you know what it reminded me of a little bit? This felt like a Joss Whedon joke to me. I don't know if this was just me, but he basically goes, everyone, let's just go. Turn around.
Yeah.
Where's the nearest jump gate? Let's just go.
Yeah.
Nothing to see here.
The other Kree, like when I think really Rowan turns to the other Kree guy and he just has this kind of like wide-eyed expression. That was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's good. So it's like, oh, you had no idea what you were even dealing with here.
Yeah.
Let's talk, because okay, so there's 2 things that happen. Sort of, I'll call them prequel things, right?
Yeah.
One is how Fury loses his eye, which I know some of the internet's not happy about, and then the other one is how the name Avenger becomes a thing, right?
Yeah.
So. So I have been very vocal in the past about how I don't like prequels and some of the prequel shit they pull. And I've not seen the movie, but I like to make fun of Han Solo's name origin.
That I'm gonna say it right now. That is the worst part of that movie.
That's
the worst thing about that movie.
I can believe
I agree with that.
So he actually he bonds with a cat, right? Who turns out to be a Flerken, but it's a cat most of the time. It's
this alien Cthulhu face looking thing that hides in the body of a cat. And
I love when the second time he tries to use it as a weapon and he's just kind of holding it up like, come on,
do your thing. It reminded me. I will say the one problem I had with that joke where he the first time he did it and like got all those like soldiers like by itself with the tentacles. I thought that was funny, but it was basically the exact same joke as the first Guardians when Groot did the big arm.
Yeah.
It was the same joke, I thought. Minor nitpick, but it's popped in my head. So you got the cat. I love the stuff with the cat. I love when they actually first went into like when the cat stole away on the little plane that they stole from the shield base or whatever it was.
And it's stuck.
And the cat's just in the back,
accelerating.
Yeah.
And then later on when they go into space and it's in 0G and the cat's just kind of like, oh, cat's great. But I like the cat. So the cat scratches his eye, and he's like, "Oh, it's just a scratch; it'll be fine." And the joke all movie is that the Skrulls are like, "No, get that creature away from me. That's a dangerous creature." And Fury's like, "Oh, I'll be fine. It's fine." But no, of course, we see later on that he's getting like fake eyeballs, and Coulson's like giving him stuff. But he's writing up. So that's how he lost his eye. Was the cat. And Marvel likes to subvert things. I know some people have complained that he said in Winter Soldier he got the eye by not trusting someone.
Yeah, he trusted the cat, and that's why you don't trust cats. You
could argue it that way. I would argue it. Like, remember how in Avengers when he lied to the team about Coulson's cards and where they were to motivate them?
Yeah.
I think it's perfectly in his character that in Winter Soldier he said that to motivate the other character.
Well,
So
also,
I kind of go ahead, Tim.
Oh, well, when Coulson says like, "Oh, is it true that you lost your eye to the Kree under torture?" And like, he just kind of smiles. He's like, "I can neither confirm or deny that." Like, I feel like that's what it's like more of, like
he's having fun with it. He's not gonna admit it.
He's a spy. He lies for a living.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, and so like, was it underwhelming a little bit? But then when you go back and think about it, like it was a kitty cat that took out the most badass spy's eye, and that's why he has this cool eye patch now.
Yeah.
It's fine. Like,
I think it's fine. I thought it was funny and whatever. And the thing is, it's not like I think it would be one thing if it's like every movie, sets up like, oh, there's a big backstory to his eye, but it's like it's not anything I literally never thought about it before, so it's like totally fine.
Yeah. So then the other thing is he's sitting there at a computer and he's got like a document. He's going to propose that they need to build like a team and find other people that are special, and it's obviously the origin of the Avengers. And I think we always figured that this movie would lead to his idea to build the Avengers. Like Carl was the first ever superhuman that he met, and it says like the Protector Initiative or something like that at the top, and he starts looking through photos from the file for Carol, and he sees her plane, and her call sign on the plane was Carl Avenger. Danvers, and the Avengers team starts kind of like and the strings start coming in as he types it in, and it's like the Avenger Initiative. And here's the thing, I if you told me about this beforehand, I probably would have said I'll probably not like this. I have to admit, it oddly kind of worked for me. I kind of had I had a grin on my face as the music started playing as he typed it in. And
I thought it was totally fine. I didn't like. I mean, I agree with you. Like, I'm usually not big on prequel stuff, and it usually seems like unnecessary, but this was fine.
I think the reason why it worked for me is because I always expected that Carol was going to inspire the creation of the Avengers, so the fact that the name came from her call sign is like, that's fine. Like it's the same element essentially, it's just another little detail.
And I feel like Top Gun has done this thing where they think that all call signs are like these super cool nicknames. But I've seen some pilots that have really like just silly ones. Yeah. Because that's what they call each other. And I was looking up while you guys were talking about that. In the comics, her call sign was Cheeseburger. So I'm okay with it being Avenger. And also, an Avenger was a type of plane through World War II. Yeah. So, again, I think it's cool. Like,
I mean, maybe it's because I haven't ate lunch yet, but I mean, the Cheeseburger Initiative does sound
good. Does sound
pretty
good.
good.
Yeah. So
sit on that. That's going to be our restaurant.
The final little post-credit sequence. I just want to mention here before we talk about other stuff. I think all three of us owning cats probably relate to the sound of a cat throwing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because of course the cat did eat the cosmic cube at one point, so the final post-credit scene is the cat coughing up like a fur ball. Delightful. So let's go back. We haven't really talked about like the whole buddy cop adventure, really. No. Brie Larson landing, shooting. I kind of love the video store. I was like the True Lies standee. I was noticing other videos in the background. Like Last Action Hero was one of them.
Yeah, she picks up the right stuff.
Yeah.
About astronaut training.
Yeah.
And whatnot, which was cool. Funnily enough, I had one of those True Lies stand-ups. My dad won it from our local video store. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, wow, it is 1995.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I thought the fish out of water stuff, for the most part, was fun. Like, it didn't overdo it, I don't think. It was just kind of there a little bit.
Yeah. Her and Sam Jackson work really well together. Like, they had this whole bit at the Oscars where they seemed like they were ad-libbing things. And just... This is like I think their third movie together, so.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I think so. I think that's what I mean.
I love the scene where they're meeting up in the bar and trying to make sure they're not Skrulls, and he's like, all right, prove to me you're not a Skrull, and then she just like blasts the jukebox. He's like, how does that prove you're not a Skrull?
You're not a Skrull. Yeah.
And she's like, oh, Skrull can't do that. I'm like, but how do I know that?
Which I had the same reaction as Fury. I said the same thing. I was like, we don't know that.
Or even that final little joke she had where she's like, oh, now tell me something so weird that it has to be true, and a Skrull would never think of it. He's like, oh, if toast is cut diagonally, I can't eat it. And he's like, you didn't need that, did you? Like, no, but I enjoyed it. Like,
again, that's part of her that deadpan, like, and even levity there, like. She has it. Like, she has this charm to her.
As someone who is a huge fan of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and who loves Coulson being the hero and letting them go, because when the Skrulls have infiltrated and they're calling the shots at S.H.I.E.L.D., Coulson makes the choice to not capture them. He lets them go, and I was like, yeah, Coulson, damn it.
Yeah.
And
but
yeah. There we go. Oh, you go, Tim. I love how we stopped to let him speak, and he just paused and started laughing at himself.
So we know this is not a Skrull. So that's something 100% Timmy would do.
Yeah.
That's a Tim moment.
I was gonna say something, but I honestly I completely forgot.
No, just the buddy cop stuff. They were really good together. And I like her piecing back together her former life
Yeah.
beforehand, and her getting those flashes of being told she can't do stuff because she's a
Yeah.
girl.
I I do think, and I like the moment where all those flashes at the end when she's like standing back up, where she remembers that
Yeah.
she can stand up, and it cuts between hers like various ages standing, because we've seen like her fall off the rope at the training ground like multiple times, but we see her stand up, and it goes from her and as a kid in the little go-kart to all these different accidents where she's all got hurt, and every single time she stands back up, and the way it was cut between that, I shit you not, I'm not just doing this, but it reminded me of a montage from the final episode of the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where all the Slayers are activated, and it's like Buffy's giving this speech about all the girls, and like there's a girl in the baseball, hitting the ball, like it reminded me of that moment.
Yeah.
But I like that, but I think
it's definitely a great scene. It's like maybe it's probably like a little saccharine maybe, but I was so into it at that point that I do kind of want
if I have a complaint on that stuff
or whatever,
I would probably say that I wish there was maybe just some more flash, kind of like you were saying about expanding the backstory a bit, more flashbacks with her and Maria, just so that when she actually was reunited with Maria, it had more of an emotional impact. Because it worked really well, they had good chemistry, but it didn't have the emotional hit that it maybe would have otherwise.
But speaking of hits, though, I do love seeing her fight an old lady.
Oh yes, that was hilarious.
Yes.
In fact, going back, I said one of my favorite things of Brie Larson's performance is actually the build up to that scene where she's walking down the train and she's just sort of like eyeing everyone up, and she's got this kind of like, I know it's one of you, and she's just looking around at them, and obviously that's where the Stan Lee cameo hits. He's reading the script
really
from Mallrats, because he was in that movie. I was not prepared for the Marvel logo at the start being nothing but Stan Lee cameos.
That was great. Yeah.
That was real sweet.
Yeah, so that hit me right in the gut.
Also, so Stan Lee exists in this universe because he's in Mallrats. He's reading the Mallrats script.
That's true.
So, who did he create then?
Batman and Superman.
Huh?
Batman and Superman.
I guess that works.
And inside the Marvel universe, Stan Lee created the DC universe. That's my stance. That's what I'm going with.
I can say he created the Squadron Supreme then, because they're just But
they do have those DC comics. Just imagine if Stan Lee created.
Yeah, we've talked about those.
Yeah. There's this whole
I
thing.
don't remember the Batman one, but
yeah. So I mean, for as much as I've nitpicked at, as much as I have critiques, I did mostly have fun. I think it's better than a lot of the Phase 1 movies. It's damn sure better than Doctor Strange and a couple of others. But it's not in like the top tier for me, where it's like next to Winter Soldier, Avengers, The First Guardians, Homecoming. It's not in that tier. Oh, and Infinity War as well. There's another one to throw in there.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we've not talked about that we should talk about?
Just the post credit where we got that scene from
the mid credit,
Endgame.
Oh yeah.
And I love how it's a wraparound shot, and she just shows up behind them.
Yeah.
And because they're activating the pager that Fury left.
Yeah, it seems like they found it where Fury disappeared, and they've been like boosting the signal, hoping that whoever was going to answer it would answer it, and she just shows up behind them. It's like, all right.
So now, do we think like with her powers fully unlocked now? Because at the end of the movie, she ends up leaving with the Skrulls to help them find someplace new, and so that's where she's been in between while all this has been going on.
I wonder, like, has she actually been gone for like 20+ years, or is it more of a timey-wimey thing where she's
as Interstellar has taught us.
Yeah, as Interstellar has taught us, yes.
But like, I'm wondering if, because she got her powers from the Tesseract, which becomes the Space Stone, right? That she has like teleportation kind of stuff, and that's how she was able just to blink in.
Can she teleport in the comics? I don't think she can.
I don't think so. But like, I don't know how else. Yeah, I don't know how else to explain her just appearing. Well,
she didn't teleport. Think of it as Batman, Matt. She Batmaned into the scene.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know.
Well, I mean, there's a big plot of the movie where they're trying to unlock light speed travel.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe I don't know.
That
You could probably say, if they figure it out, and then because it seems like they've been doing the signal for a while, and it probably took them time to track it down. So let's say if it's
Yeah,
this is over the course of a couple of weeks or something.
Yeah, I'm thinking she actually got the message when Fury sent it at the end of
Yeah.
Infinity War, and
she's been on her way back.
Yeah,
but I'm just saying, her showing up in the compound where they are, you know, completely like you said, like Batman. You know,
yeah.
Like, it's I don't know.
I'm Batman.
Oh. But I thought it was really good. I mean, Ashley was excited to see Chris Evans show up in the movie.
Of course.
No complaints from her.
I saw people saying, "Oh, they want a moment in the movie where it's like Captain," you know, between Captain America and Captain Marvel. But I'm like, unless she got that name when she was away, I don't think we can have that moment yet because she's not actually like. I almost wonder if she'll get it from him. Like he'll kind of like, you know, like, call her a captain as well. So I don't know. I'm just thinking.
In Kelly Sue's first issue, Captain America shows up and they team up, and she goes, "You know, technically I outrank you because I'm a corporal. You're the captain," and it makes for a fun. So I would prefer a scene like that.
Yeah.
Where she actually does outrank him, but it's his name now. You know.
Yeah.
That would be fun. But yeah, I have a newfound appreciation for this character. I'm gonna keep chucking through the Kelly Sue run. I started the Kelly Thompson run. I haven't read the second issue yet.
Yeah, I do want to go back and read that Kelly Sue run. I've been enjoying the Kelly Thompson one. The Kelly Thompson one's very specific and different. It's doing this sort of weird like bubble where there's like a post-apocalyptic part of the city, and she's like banded with other superheroes to like try and take things down. It's got kind of a Mad Max kind of feel to it. It's kind of interesting, but
it's cool.
But
yeah,
cool.
So I definitely like this is a character I want to see more of. I definitely enjoyed Brie Larson in that role. I think she's fit into it, and it seems like she loves to be Carol now. Last night she showed up at a theater.
I saw that.
and surprised the audience, and just with the same Carol charms, like so I heard that I was on the popcorn and cups, and had to come check it out for myself. You know. Nice. And so I like when actors just you can tell they enjoy playing the character like Gal Gadot,
which is
really
good.
enjoys being Wonder Woman because
Brie's probably gonna be tied to this character for a decade now. So you know, she better enjoy it because it's going to be going for a while. Especially with that opening weekend, jeez. So
people are talking about it. Only made $450 million.
I know, only right. Only all those boycotts worked.
Yeah.
Oh, it's delightful. So yeah, I mean, I guess we're left at rating it. Rating it out of the tens. Timmy, what are you rating Captain Marvel?
I really liked it. I think I'm gonna be. No, I'll go I'll actually we'll go a full 8. I was thinking maybe a 7.5, be a little trepidatious because sometimes, I like to give a movie a second watch before I finalize going that high. But you know what, I can't deny that I didn't have a lot of fun, and like we're talking about, I just I really like the character. I felt like they did her justice, and there's a few nitpicks here and there, but overall, really good time. So I'll give it an 8.
Matt.
Yes, coming into this, I thought it was gonna be more of an 8, but talking about it has kind of made me realign it. So I'm gonna go just a half point above that and make it an 8.5.
Nice.
And because the only thing that I can really complain about is the overdone 90s stuff and the origin material, it's still a pretty good movie.
Definitely.
I guess I'm going to be the negative Nancy of the group. Just because, I had my technical faults. I think the first act's definitely the dullest. Some clunkiness in the script. There's definitely faults throughout. But I did have a lot of fun. It made me like the character. I like her chemistry with almost everyone else. I like what they did with the Skrulls. So, I mean, for me, I think, and I like the ultimate final moments between the making Ronan run away with his tail between his legs, and then the final moment with Jude Law's character. I love those payoffs. Like I was fist pumping for those moments. So I'm gonna give it a solid 7. I think it's good, but I can't go up to great or anything like that. And I'm really fascinated by what is a Captain Marvel 2 where she has because she's not flying the whole. She doesn't learn to fly until the last fight of the movie.
Yeah.
So what is a movie with her with all those powers like throughout the whole thing? I am fascinated by that. So. Looking forward to that. And I might give Marvel credit in a way here because I feel like they're at this weird disadvantage compared to DC where they didn't have their Wonder Woman because they have a lot of great female characters, but a lot of them I would say are in the X-Men. right? I feel like all the female characters I think I love from Marvel, barring
I'm running through them, and it seems like
you know.
I think there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot in the X-Men. There's also a lot that are kind of like the female version of a male hero, like Spider-Woman,
Yeah,
or,
yeah.
you know, that kind of stuff too.
But they didn't
Which
have that.
I feel like is harder to do in a movie.
Because I feel like the Trinity in Marvel, and obviously Spider-Man's a bigger character, but the Trinity, as far as Avengers goes, is Thor, Cap, and Iron Man, right? It didn't have the natural. So I think that they've, in like, 7 years, built Carol Danvers up to a point where she's at that level, and she's got the movie now, and it feels like it doesn't feel like it's forced to me. It feels like, no, she actually has kind of like taken that place as one of the big characters, one of the A-listers from Marvel.
She's a big player in Jason Aaron's Avengers right now.
Yep.
She's a big member on the team. And I'm trying to think, like, she was even in Civil War II, which I checked out of, but she was the opposing side.
Yeah, I've heard that she was really
one.
poorly written in that, though.
Yeah, it's not the best light. And right now I'm actually reading the Ultimates, the like kind of, you know, after like Secret War stuff with Al Ewing, which is really good, and she's like, you know, a big prominent person in that too.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I want to go back and read the Kelly Sue stuff. I've got so much to catch up on for elsewhere though right now. I have to catch up on Jason Aaron's Thor. So my recreational reading just for
War of the Realms coming up,
just because I want to read something is keeps getting pushed back, but here we are.
She was up in Alpha Flight, right? Because I think she showed up in Immortal Hulk.
Because they became Gamma Flight, right? in Immortal Hulk.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking of I've had so much Carol over the past like 9 months and didn't even realize it from her popping up in smaller books that I've been reading. But yeah.
And honestly, you know, give me Captain Marvel 2, put her in the Avengers, and you know, I think they've already said they want to do Miss Marvel, so yeah, do Miss Marvel.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Do it.
That'd be really fun.
Get to it. Come on. And Joe, the beauty is that because she was around in the 90s, and Miss Marvel will be present day, they can sell us that she has this fondness for her from her childhood, perhaps.
Yeah,
definitely.
Or that she already existed, and that's why she takes the name Miss Marvel, because she's honouring Captain Marvel, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because we don't get the name in this, but we do get a couple of jokes about Marvel, because that's Annette Bening's character. So I wonder like how we get to Captain Marvel, but yeah, that's us. I guess that's the review. So what is left to do? To tell you to, you know, tell us what you think of the movie, of course, in the comments, like and subscribe, all that stuff. It helps us out a lot. If you want to support the show and the channel and everything we do here and all the movie reviews and everything else we do, head over to patreon.com/MailedFuzzTV, where you can support us for as little as $1 per month. You get some stuff early, you get some other stuff exclusively. Me and Tim do a horror movie podcast called Streams After Midnight. You get an exclusive episode of that once per month at the $1 tier, for example. So check out that. Obviously, if you're interested in hearing us talking more about comic books, we have 2 comic book podcasts. Me, Matt, and Connor do a DC Comics podcast called Comics from the Multiverse. We talk about DC Comics every week. Me and Connor do an Elsewhere in the Multiverse podcast, which is the Marvel books, which may be more relevant given this movie, along with other publishers too. So you know, we've been reviewing Captain Marvel, the current series on there, and other stuff. So check out those too. So you can get those all on YouTube, or you can get them in their individual podcast feed. But yeah, that's us though. I think that's everything. Tim, where can people find you?
Pretty much at Tim Vargulish on any social media platform, but yeah, Twitter is probably the one where I interact the most. I guess if people want to comment on it, but if you're on Facebook, you can like my comic page, Goatman Comics. I'm working on a lot of stuff this year. Don't really want to announce stuff till it's done, but hopefully I will have stuff at some point to show off. It's
very erotic, I promise. Matt, where can people find you?
You can find me at Man of Steel 57 on Twitter.
Yeah.
And yeah.
You can find me at Wooble89 on the Twitters. You can also find me with that same name on Letterboxd, should you wish to stalk my movie watching habits. But that is us. That has been 121 Gigawatts. This has been our Captain Marvel review. All 3 of us should be back for the Avengers review next month, as well as the Hellboy review, because Tim's a big Hellboy fan, so it makes sense for Tim to pop on for that too. So the plan
Are you going to see that, Matt?
Oh, yeah. David Harbour is Hellboy. It's something I never knew I wanted to know.
Okay.
Oh.
So yeah, it'll be us as a trio again for those two movies next month. But me and Tim will also be doing Us on Screams After Midnight, and I think there's something in April as well. I can't remember what it was though.
Pet Cemetery is April.
Oh God, that looks so bad. But yeah, me and Tim will be reviewing that on Screams After Midnight.
Hey, you don't judge it until you've seen it.
After the first trailer, you said you were worried about it, and you started complaining about all the kids in it.
That's because Tim's such a huge Stephen King fan.
Yeah.
Though, like, I understand that.
Look,
Yeah.
I am sorry that the new Hellboy doesn't look that good. I am sorry that the new Pet Cemetery does not look that good. Tim, you can't always get your way.
I just
know.
it's
Hellboy
all right
looks good
if
to
you
me.
it's all right if you have reservations, but you can't tell people that it's gonna suck before it comes out. You gotta let them know. Gotta give it a fair shot.
I'll give it a fair shot. I just like winding you up. This is purely aimed at you and your reaction and nothing else.
Yeah.
All right, that has been
That's better.
that has been our Captain Marvel review. So thank you very much once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching movies, guys, and higher, faster, further. Bye, guys. Oh, and diplomatic immunity.